It's 694 down and 1 to go for James Coppinger as he prepares to hang up his boots after one hell of a career. The Rovers legend has decided to call it a day after 17 years at the club, and it promises to be an emotional afternoon at the Keepmoat Stadium. It's Rovers against Peterborough from 12 o'clock. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us for our pre-match build-up to the game against Peterborough United in Sky Bet League One. Joining me on the show, editor of the Doncaster Free Press, Liam Hoden, and host of the 18 Dapper YouTube channel, Dan Pearson. Lads, the last show of the season, the last game of the season as well. Liam, it's been a roller coaster ride, hasn't it?
It certainly has. So much promise as we turned into 2021 and that first couple of months of this year, and unfortunately it's petered out. So yeah, it's a difficult one to sum up really, because so much of it was so good, but then just at the key point, it's unfortunately gone down now.
Dan, it started well-ish, a draw here against MK Dons, and then a couple of wins to back that up, and all of a sudden the optimism is there. The fans aren't in the stadium, but there's a bit of belief, and the first half of the campaign was a really good one. Yeah,
it was a fantastic first half to the campaign, and like you say, we started to gather momentum. I remember being on show saying we're starting to win ugly, and that's a sign of a good team and a team that's potentially going up. But then it got to January, February time, and there was a pivotal point of the season where games came thick and fast, and that momentum just deserted us, and the rest is history.
The first half of the campaign, Liam, the players that were brought in, many of them unknown. You look at Taylor Richards, for example, who's gone and got into double figures in terms of goals, but those players really stepped up, didn't they, and showed that the calibre of loan players that were coming in was really high.
Darren Moore spoke about wanting players in that were hungry to prove something and show something, and they certainly did that early on. Taylor Richards, Matt Smith, players like that made a big contribution. If you bring in someone like Taylor Richards into the position that he plays, you want them to take games by the scruff of the neck, to produce moments of magic, and Taylor certainly did that.
Of course, in between a good run at the start of December and the start of January, there was the COVID outbreak where games were called off, and it just halted momentum a little bit. But then Rovers hit the ground running once they'd returned in the new year. Yeah,
it was a big shame that, because that run that they were on was incredible. Obviously, they had that little bit of a stumble against Shrewsbury just before Christmas that stopped them from going top of the league. But they came back really strong. I think what they managed to achieve at Blackburn in the FA Cup that day really kind of galvanised them again. That was the perfect performance to come back with after that enforced break, and really kicked on then after that with another good run.
There were a few issues in the first half of the campaign, Dan, notably the goalkeeper situation. Joseph Bursick was number one for the first 2 or 3 months, was then recalled by Stoke. Then we got an emergency loan keeper in Joe Lumley. Then he goes back to QPR, and Ellery Balcombe comes in between Lewis Jones having little starts here and there. And that can always be a problem, can't it? You'd want a regular number one for the whole campaign.
Yeah, I think a regular number one's vital at League One, and a regular number one who can command that back line and command his area. I think Ellery did that well when he first came in. I think Bursick did it well, but when it starts to, like you say, when they go back to the parent clubs, it just kind of makes it disjointed at the back.
Liam, we know as much as anyone that the talk of Ben Whiteman for transfer windows in the last couple of years, if truth be told, has always taken priority, hasn't it? And the key for Rovers every summer and every January has been keeping hold of him. I suppose it was slightly inevitable this time around that his departure was to come. He left the club, and how big an impact, looking back, do you feel that has had on the campaign?
I think it's had quite a considerable one actually, and probably more than what it seemed early on when Rovers had a decent run of form without him and looked like they've adapted and players have taken on that role. I think what it highlighted for me is that the package that is Ben Whiteman, what he brings, it's so much. The quality on the ball, the quality of passing, the defensive side of his game, the organisation, and the leadership, all in one package. When you take that out, you're asking multiple players to fill that, because you don't get an automatic Ben Whiteman replacement, and I think that's really where his absence was felt.
And I heard you say in midweek that Rovers simply didn't have the amount of experience needed to be able to cover all those different roles.
I think that's it. I think that's become clear as well as it's gone along. It has seemed to be, you really wanting players to kind of take it by, drag them through it, as we've seen so many great Rovers teams over the years do. There's always players in there to drag them through it, and Rovers just didn't have quite enough.
The man in charge now, Andy Butler, has played against, played with, and now managed James Coppinger throughout his career, and he admires the standards that the number 26 continues to set.
Looking ahead to this weekend, if for no other reason, do you as a team need to do it for James Coppinger on his final game?
I mean, what better way to sign off than with a victory at the Keepmoat? I think James has been an unbelievable servant to Doncaster Rovers, and like I keep saying, the term gets passed about lightly, but he's a legend, and that's what he is at the club. Anyone you speaks so highly of him, whether that's in football or out of football. He's got his head screwed on right, and he gives everything for the cause. He's always helping out the younger lads, doing his bits for Doncaster Rovers. And on the pitch, you wouldn't, if you had someone asking for a five-a-side team, he'd be probably the first pick on every game. So yeah, I mean, what a person, what a player, what a career he's had. If players look to emulate a player, why not emulate James Coppinger, especially with all the games he's played for one club? I don't think he'll ever be matched at Doncaster Rovers again. But that's the challenge for the younger players now, go in there and try and replicate James Coppinger, and be the legend of the town. He's got the key to the city. He's got so many accolades and so many appearances to his name, and he obviously won the Tom Finney Award, which is unbelievable from the EFL. So yeah, there'll be more and more coming his way, I believe.
So Liam, Andy Butler, in the absence of James Coppinger next season, will be, if he's not the manager, the most experienced player in the Rovers squad. How big a hand will he have to play in helping whoever the new manager is?
I think it'll be massive. As we said, we've just spoken about experience, and I think you need that continuity. You look at who's likely to be the next longest serving player. Probably Joe Wright if Joe does indeed stay, but then you're looking at Lewis Jones, and these are the players that have been here the length of time. Andy Butler's Rovers through and through. We know that. We've seen that certainly over these last few months when he's been in charge, and I think he's going to be. We've seen it as well when he's come back into the team in these last few weeks, and how much of a big part he can play as a leader.
Danny's led by example, hasn't he, and barely put a foot wrong from the minute he stepped onto the pitch at Shrewsbury. Some of the results might not have gone in Rovers' favour, but you can't doubt his commitment or performance levels. Yeah,
Liam said it is Rovers through and through, and it's clear to see to anybody watching that he'll put everything on the line for the club. I feel for him, been thrown in a little bit at the deep end. He's had injuries, there's been a number of reasons it's not quite gone to plan, but I think as an experience he'll take a lot from this, and I hope it stands him in good stead for the future.
And he might not admit it in full, but just how much it will be hurting him that the results haven't gone. He really wanted this job, didn't he? Yeah, like we said, the season was really poised to be a positive one, and I don't think the blame lands at his feet at all. But yeah, he'll be disappointed that the season's gone the way that it has. In terms of the managerial process, Liam, Rovers making tracks, there's been a slight delay because two people who weren't able to come on in midweek have asked for their interviews to now be next week, which is slightly understandable if you're the board who want to make sure they're getting the right decision.
I think so. Obviously it's frustrating for everybody. They want a manager in. There probably will be a manager in by the end of the week. I think that's the aim, and I don't see anything holding that up from here. If you've had 100 and odd applicants, probably 80 that you would genuinely consider, and you've whittled those down and you've come to a final shortlist, you've decided that those people are worth waiting for. If it takes you a couple of days, but you're still going to appoint within the same week, it's worth waiting for.
And as we've seen before, that there's a lot of talk about process and do's and don'ts and headhunting and not headhunting, but the board are always keen to get the right man because they do the due diligence, easy for me to say, all the way through it.
Yeah, that's it. And we've said it before. The results have been shown from it. The calibre of manager that they managed to bring in, it proves that the process works. So why not stick by it?
Now, club historian John Coyle knows everything there is to know about Doncaster Rovers, and he's been speaking this week about the legacy in which James Coppinger will leave behind.
He's stayed with Rovers, and he's effectively the last link as a player to the team that played at Bellevue and moved to the Keepmoat in 2006-07. So there's nobody else in the team who's done that. Who's played there as a Rovers player. So he's the last link with that. He's also the last link with the successful seasons in the early to mid 2000s, where we got back into the Football League. just before Cops joined us. Then we had the League Cup run, which he was part of. And then we had the Johnston's Paint trophy final at Cardiff and the playoff final at Wembley. So he's been part of all that. And 5 seasons out of 6 in the Championship. So it's kind of the history of Doncaster Rovers in the 21st century is really James Coppinger. I mean, he's always been a fit player. He's always seemed to keep himself very fit. But to keep himself fit at the age of 40 is quite remarkable. And to be honest, I think he could easily play another season. You've got to call it time at some time, and obviously Cops thinks now's the right time to do it, and fair play to him. But he's incredibly fit, and he's also, I think, he's one of the best players in the team still. And I'll be amazed if he doesn't mark Sunday's game by doing something a bit out of the ordinary. Whether it's scoring a goal, whether it's creating a goal, you know, he'll do something. It's the nature of the man. A little story about the Southend game, because in the week, a few weeks beforehand, we'd had some fairly mixed fortunes. We lost at Cheltenham. We could have gone up, and Cops was one of several players who was off form. He came out in the Southend game, second leg, after we'd drawn down there. I said to Dave, who sits next to me, I said, Cops is at it tonight, because if within 5 minutes he'd already skinned the fullback twice, and he, you know, then of course comes the hat trick, and a most remarkable hat trick. And I would advise anybody who hasn't seen it to go on YouTube and go and have a look, because it is something a bit special.
So John Coyle talking glowingly about James Coppinger there. We've asked Liam and Dan to tell us their favourite James Coppinger moments. Dan, could you tell us what yours is and why?
Yeah, it was a tough one because there's so many to choose from. Talking to Liam before we started this, there's every important goal, every important moment for the Rovers, it's been involved. But for me, the one, it's got to be the hat-trick against Southend in the playoff semi-final. Just an absolute complete performance, unplayable on the night, and he pulled us into that final single-handedly, really.
On a warm summer's night at the Keepmoat in front of a packed house, when you need someone to stand up and perform, he certainly did that.
Yeah, definitely. Just absolutely everything about his game was a 10 out of 10 performance, and I don't think anybody could have asked for anything more from any individual player. He just turned up on the night, didn't he?
It's one of those nights, isn't it, where as a fan you just pinch yourself that you were there to witness something so special.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the second goal for me is probably the best of the three in my opinion. The way that he just cuts in from the right hand side is untouchable, and you just hear the crowd kind of on the edge of the seat, and the roar is just something else. Can't wait to hear that again.
He's got a couple of Rovers hat-tricks throughout his career, but to do it on such a big night as well, in a playoff semi-final second leg, shows a lot, as he's always spoken about, in his mental character.
Yeah, he's very big on kind of preparing for games and imagining things beforehand. Would he imagine scoring a hat-trick in the way that he did? Maybe not, but I'm glad it panned out the way that it did.
And I think the Southend, when you watch the game back, even the Southend fans are in the away end sort of looking in disgust, in shock, but also just enjoying what was a special performance.
Yeah, just admiring a fantastic performance from a fantastic player and what career he's had, and it's going to be tough to see him go.
Liam, what's your favourite James Coppinger moment?
I tried to think a little bit differently. I thought there'd be a lot of talk of Brentford and things like that, which were obviously amazing. But one thing that really stood out to me was when he spoke to us after the whole game, after that incredible free kick, them last-minute heroics, and when he got emotional, and we kind of saw the emotion from him for the first time at seeing that things were coming to an end.
Let's just remind ourselves of that post-match interview.
It's another milestone, and again, I'm not embarrassed, but there's that many that come up. Like today, I didn't want it to be all about me. Like, it's actually sort of, not embarrassing, but you know, the most important part about today was getting 3 points or getting a result and a performance. And I thought second half we got that performance. We ended up getting a draw, which I felt like we deserved. But playing 800 games, playing until I'm 40, scoring today, like, it just goes on and on and on. I did get a bit emotional in the dressing room because, like,
go on, it's okay, take time.
That's alright. No, because this isn't going to last forever. That's right.
Not me good. The amount of joy though that you bring to people, not just in the ground but across the town and beyond, and you know the amount of people who are proud of what you're doing.
No, I do get that, and like the lads have said it, and for a lot of the lads to say that, you know, to say like forget about like how you feel, like we were absolutely overwhelmed. It means a lot.
I can well imagine. But you
Liam, you were in there. It was an interview with yourselves, Radio Sheffield, and all the usual post-match press. And after he'd scored that free kick, which, of course, he'll probably go and score a hat-trick against Peterborough this afternoon and take himself to 100 career goals. But if he doesn't score, that's his last goal at the Keepmoat Stadium. And he pretty much said that, didn't he? If that's the last one, what a way to go out.
What a way to go out. What always stands out to me when I watch that goal back as well is there were nobody in here, but the roar when that ball hits the back of the net were incredible. Everybody kind of got caught up in that moment because everybody recognised it was a special moment. And then I think when he came to us and he'd had the opportunity to have a breather, and then we started talking about the end, you know, it kind of hit home to him and it hit home to us all that could very well be his last goal at the Keepmoat. And I think the emotion really started to set in for everybody in the room, really.
And it shows how much he means to everyone and how much everyone means to him. The fact that there wasn't a dry eye in the press room when he was talking through it.
That's it. There's always talk, and people say how much things mean to him. And there's never been any reason to doubt James Coppinger's commitment to Doncaster Rovers and his love to Doncaster Rovers. But then you see it in that kind of raw, visceral moment, just how much it means to him. And as you say, everybody else as well, what he means to them. It's going to be an emotional occasion for so many people this afternoon.
We've spoken about a couple of big moments there. Why is it that he's constantly, your 500th appearance at Morecambe, the Southend game there, the Brentford game, he's always in the action when it matters most?
I think there's the quality of the player, the intelligence of the player when he's out on the pitch to get himself involved in those moments. But it's just, you know, he was the one, and he said, and he's talked about Brentford after, he was thinking, as that ball comes out, I need to get up the pitch. He was thinking that so much of what were going off on that pitch were concentrating on the fact that Brentford had missed the penalty. Brentford were down on the knees. Rovers were just kind of settled down because they knew it were enough. But in James Coppinger's mind, he's getting up the pitch to try and score the winning goal that afternoon. That's how special a player he is. He has got that clarity of thought when he's out on the pitch.
Yeah, he mentioned to me he saw Kevin O'Connor on the floor and starting to get up and run, and he thought, I'm not that quick, but I'm definitely quicker than you, as he's racing through. Dan, that's another example, isn't it? The Brentford goal, I think, will always be number one for what it represented.
Yeah, I think he's been involved in everything because of self-belief, and I'm a strong believer in you make your own luck, and if you believe enough like James does, it's shown that you can make your own luck and be involved, and like Liam says, the quality of the player that he is, it kind of comes down, it helps.
Yeah. I think one of the nicest images after a goal that he scored was the one at Morecambe, where the player, his teammates are all lifting him onto their shoulders, showing how much he meant to all them, and most of which would have probably only been at Rovers for a couple of months or so, but already he'd taken them in.
I think everybody who's come to this club over these last 17 years, particularly the last decade, they've seen how important he is, the quality of players. You look back to that experiment season that we don't like to talk about too much, but the quality of players that came in there, they recognise it. You're talking Champions League players in that spot. They recognise how good a player James Coppinger was and how important he was too. I think everybody has really kind of realised just what a central figure he has been to Doncaster Rovers and successive squads.
Yeah, he's the one sticking point, isn't he, Dan? Managers, players come and go, but he's been the constant all the way through.
Yeah, I think we can count ourselves very lucky that the club's aspirations and goals have aligned with James's over the years, and it's just happened as it has, so that we can get to see him for 17 seasons, which is unreal. Never heard of and probably never hear it again.
The shirt number as well, the number 26, is what makes it even more unique, because most players will want 7, they'll want 9, something that represents a goal scorer, a winger. The number 26, the fact that he's kept that all the way through, makes it even more special, doesn't it? It makes him even more unique.
Yeah, I'd like to see it retired personally, because I think anybody who wears number 26 again, it's like filling Ben Whiteman's boots. You're not gonna fill that shirt. So potentially retire it, but if somebody does wear the number 26, hopefully they're as good and as loyal as Cops.
And as I said, you wouldn't be surprised if he was to have a big afternoon against Peterborough.
Not at all. As we said, these occasions have always been big for him. I think Darren Ferguson has said it. He's quite happy that there's nothing on this game, particularly because Rovers have been a bit of a bogey side. But I think he knows who potentially would have been central to things had Peterborough come here and needed a result.
Yeah, the man himself, James Coppinger, has had plenty of interviews to do this week, and here are his thoughts on what's bound to be an emotional afternoon.
I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, had a few interviews this week asking the same question, and genuinely, I'm the type of person that just wants it over and done with. No fuss, just get in, get out. But I know that's not going to be the case, and I know it's going to be quite emotional for me and my family. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I genuinely don't think you can prepare for it. It's been sort of 20, 23 years, 24 years since I left school, and I don't know any different in terms of, every day going into training, playing football, doing something that I love doing. So for that to end, I genuinely don't think you can prepare for it and prepare for your last game. But at the same time, I have been doing other things over the last 5-6 years, and I have got other passions and other things that I love to do, including spending time with my family and friends. So I just want to enjoy this game on Sunday and then look forward to what's next.
Is this definitely it?
100%. I think I have ummed and ahed all season, especially with the fans not being in. That has been disappointing, because when I signed my contract in July, I thought fans would be back. And for me personally, having them not been there and not been able to support me and not been able to support the team, and obviously say farewell and thank them for all the support they've given me through the highs and lows throughout 17 years at the club. It's been tough, and it's been a tough decision, because ultimately I would only play for another year. It would just be to say goodbye to the fans, and I don't think that's right, for the club and for me. I think the timing's perfect in terms of what's next, and I'm genuinely excited about what's next. Whether it's playing, I said it before, whether it's playing down the park with my kids or whether it's playing or training, I've just loved playing football.
Liam, the tears have started to come for Cops in pretty much every interview he's done this week. He feels the time is right, and I think collectively, although fans would like to see him for one more year, there's sort of an agreement that he's better going out on a high.
Going out on a high, going out on his terms. How many players get to 40 and they're still playing League One football on a regular basis? How many players get to the late 30s and they don't have to pack in because the body's not catching up with us, not with them anymore? It's just, I think it is right. I think had the supporters been in, I think everybody would have been wishing him well in terms of saying this is the right time. That's just the sticking point on it, the fact that there hasn't been that big send off. But I do think the time is right now.
Dan, if we're honest, and Cops had said, yeah, let's do one more year, when we get to this stage next year, they would have all been saying one more year again, wouldn't they? He's never going to be able to go quietly.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like Liam says, I think if the fans were in the ground, there'd be a bit more of an acceptance that this is his final year. I think that's the thing from a selfish point of view. We've not had that opportunity to show our appreciation to what he's done for Doncaster Rovers, not just on the pitch but off the pitch as well. But yeah, it's going on his terms, and if the time's right for him, that's the most important thing. And
he's been fairly honest in the fact that he's not a man for big gatherings and sort of making it all about him. He'd quite happily go out the back door and that be it done. But if we're honest, he needs a big send-off, doesn't he? And if the fans were in, we've seen what he's like in his press interviews. If he stood in front of a packed-out South Stand and the rest of the stadium, I don't think he'd be able to handle it.
No, I'm not sure he would. It's probably kind of best for his image that's not happening. But no, I think, like I say, it's going to be an odd occasion because the emotion's going to be in there. His teammates are going to want to make a big deal out of it. You know, Darren Ferguson said he wants to give him a guard of honour from Peterborough, which is a massive gesture. And Yeah, it is going to be an odd occasion, and I'm sure that he will be slightly uncomfortable with it. And I think what he'll really want is some time himself to reflect fully once it's all over, once it's passed, and kind of really take in what's happened.
Yeah, Dan, after speaking to him yesterday, I did ask him the question of, once the game's out of the way on Sunday, will you take a week to not look at anything? Because sometimes people will prefer having a bit of a break from football, but he said, no, I'll be straight back into it, probably watch the best goals back and just remind myself of what I've achieved.
That's nice to hear, that he will take the time to kind of see the messages that the fans will send. I'm sure he'll have thousands, so he'll have a busy week going through them if he's going to reply to them, but that just shows the character that he is.
Yeah, the plaudits have been rolling in for him this week, and here are some of his current and former teammates giving him the recognition he deserves.
Loyal,
inspiration.
Operated at the second level of English football. They've still got a lot to do before they get there, of course. But as Coppinger takes them forward, they mean business again here. Oh no, he's done it again!
Game changer.
Winner.
And now Patriots away. He's crossing halfway. He's got Akers to run into. He's all alone. Tries to Coppinger. Coppinger will slot it home. And he does so. Coppinger's turned it into the empty net.
inspirational,
Exceptional.
Teed up for him! Oh, what about that? What about that?
Inspiring.
inspirational,
Inventive.
professional.
The wall is set. We're 11 minutes into stoppage time at the Keep Mode. Coppinger, Bostock over it. Coppinger's going to take it right foot to Coppinger! Oh, Coppinger!
Magnificent.
Legend.
Legend. Legend.
Liam, some Rovers legends, players and managers showing there what James Coppinger means to them.
Yeah, we spoke about it in terms of how highly he is regarded. I think people as well, they really respect that professionalism and how he's approached it. You know, he's a guy that drives in a fair amount, and even said I asked him if he'd miss if there'd be certain things he wouldn't miss, and he said that he probably still will miss that drive in. You know, you could think that you get to a certain age and wondering whether you want to do it anymore, but I think it just demonstrates just his commitment, his professionalism, that he's willing to get in the car every morning and come down here. And players recognise that, you know, they see and think, and at the front of the running in pre-season and things like that, and just there's an awful lot of respect, and he has earned that respect over the years.
Dan, when you watched that video with plenty of familiar faces, did it pull on the heartstrings a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. There's been a few tears this weekend watching videos come out, and goosebumps as well. Every single time you see kind of a compilation of the goals. But the overriding word for me was inspiration, and I'm hoping that the role that's being spoken about at the minute between Cops and the club will allow him to continue being an inspiration to players coming in next season, and hopefully that just continues to build going into the future.
One of those inspirationals was Ben Whiteman. He came out with that, and he did learn a lot from James Coppinger. He's spoken quite often, hasn't he, about he was the real role model for him in developing his game, becoming a captain and becoming a leader.
Yeah, Cops were massive for Ben Whiteman, and as you say, he's spoken about that himself. You know, the amount of conversations that they've had outside, away from the club, you know, and all through the sort of the lockdown last year and things like that. Cops has been huge, and as you say, Ben, very, very thankful for the part he's played in his career.
The managers on there as well, a couple that he's won promotion with, Sean O'Driscoll and Darren Ferguson, who of course will be up against him this afternoon, but nice to see those as well.
Yeah, it's always nice to see ex-players and managers come back and say kind words about players. It shows the character and the person that he is, and the impact that he has on everybody from top to bottom in the club.
We've done so many videos for him over the years, whether it's 600th game or the whole game or whatever. And sometimes, I mean, footballers could just wash their hands of it and say, I've done my video, I've done my bit. But they're always keen. Whenever it's anything for Cops, it's, yeah, no problem, send it across, done.
Yeah, just again, say that regard in which it's held, you know. And there are special achievements. There's been so many, and you can kind of get kind of get lost in it all really because there's that many and there's one after another. But each one of them is very, very special and very, very rare in football. The number of appearances in English League football is in the top 20 of all time. It's incredible. That's how special these achievements are. And it's players recognise that as much as anybody else.
Lads, of course, it is the last show of the season today. We hope you at home have enjoyed watching it as much as we have putting it together. And let's take a look at some of the best bits and not so best bits. Thank you for joining us for our pre-match build-up as we count down to the start of the 2020-21 Sky Bet League One season.
I'm excited, and I'm excited to see the new lads and this new pacey, powerful attack.
I was happy to get on the score sheet because that's what I thought I need to add to my game.
He wants to get on the score sheet more, and I think he should do it, and I think he will eventually.
Is Reece James going to be in the holding midfield? Is he going to be at left back? Could play at left wing? We just don't know.
It's been fascinating, really, seeing what our football has played out without fans in. And
if the fans were there, it would have been a great experience.
Because you're hearing the messages and from the sideline.
I'm a Sunderland lad, you can't hide the accent, so an interesting game. I'm going to completely sit on the fence. And
James Coppinger to secure a point.
The
first one. Really Go on after Vic. This is usually the easy bit, isn't it?
You go once.
7 p.m. Third time lucky. Have some of that. It's 7 o'clock kick-off tomorrow, isn't it?
And I think we knew Andy Butler, given the facial area he's had in the past, he would be sporting a very impressive tash which he had. Talking to Joe Wright the other day, he weren't impressed with his own. He's labelled as the worst in the squad. I don't know how I'd do, having to grow a tash in space of a month.
I think you'd probably be better than me and Gunners.
I'm in no position to comment.
Then you never know, by Christmas you could be looking right up the right end with something to fight for.
To win tonight and we could be top of the tree at Christmas, Liam. Are we at risk of getting a little bit carried away?
Well, I don't think there's any danger of Darren Moore getting carried away, or the players.
Playing that Christmas period and now you get to experience it and play it. It's actually quite fun. I quite enjoy it. And it's come down now, isn't it? Jeez.
Yeah, didn't right thing coming up here.
Imagine we already have started.
One place to start, the departure of Darren Moore to Sheffield Wednesday, the subsequent appointment of Andy Butler as Rovers' new manager.
He's told them that he's now gaffer and not butts. Because
ultimately that's what I want to do, and I make no bones about it. I want to manage and coach football.
Boom, there you go, Andy. Welcome into League One. And
this year it's Klopp's final year. What better way to give him a send-off than hopefully we'll put in a golden performance like we said.
Coppinger's going to take it right foot to Coppinger!
He's done it! He's only gone and done it. Oh my word. Oh.
Yeah, I think Danny really took to the co-commentating.
Social media does it, absolutely blew up, and a tweet near the end of the game was pretty safe. Theo Okunabiri, he does everything he can to miss, but manages to bundle it in the back of the net.
It just got worse and worse and worse.
The more it goes on, the tougher it gets to shake the way out of it. We've said this long enough.
That Andy Butler played himself at centre-half and did a very good job.
He did do a very good job, particularly given that he'd only trained for a couple of days before that.
I love the look, Gibbo.
Mark said they looked all right today.
You do look like you're in a boy band. How do you see it going then?
You know me, I love predictions. I'm going for 7-3.
I hope not. I do say 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1 Liam.
But I'm going to go 2-1 Rovers. I'm going to go 2-1 today. My old favourite 2-1. But I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to go for a Rovers win.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we go back and do that bit again?
That's plenty of enjoyable moments this season. One more to go, as we said. It's going to be a very emotional afternoon saying goodbye to a legend.
It certainly is, and I think as you watch the clock tick by towards 90 minutes, I think it's really going to kind of set in for everybody. Hopefully there's a couple more big moments from James Coppinger to come before that final whistle, but yeah, as you say, a very, very emotional occasion.
Dan, have you got your afternoon planned, watching on from home on iFollow?
Yeah, I will be watching on iFollow. Not sure if I'm going to be socially distanced down at the ground to try and chant from outside, and hopefully he'll hear it. I might have a walk down and try and get my voice heard a little bit, but yeah, we will see.
Hopefully no fireworks. We know what that can do for the Peterborough players, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Of course, the hope is that he can go off in style with a Rovers win against a very good Peterborough team who've already secured promotion. I think Darren Ferguson's admitted that he's probably not going to play his frontline players and give them a bit of a rest at the end of the season, but himself would like to see Cops go off on a high note.
It certainly would. It certainly would. And don't think it as well. He will very much want his Peterborough side to win on Sunday. We saw when they were 2-0 up at London Road last week how much his exacting standards are. They were shouting and appealing for everything and urging his players on when they got a little bit sloppy. He'll want to come and do that as well as honour Cops as well.
We've mentioned the fact he's on 97 career goals. Dan, do you think there's any chance of Peterborough just letting him walk a couple in?
It'd be nice, but I think, as you say, Darren Fergie's professional. He'll want to come and do a job and not throw a game because of the circumstances. But Cops is one of those players where hopefully he'll turn it on and do it anyway, and Fergie, regardless of his tactics, won't be able to do anything about it.
On Peterborough, how much credit does Darren Ferguson deserve for the way that he's taken them up? Because I know they were disappointed last season whether they would or wouldn't have gone up automatically or through the playoffs, but they lost Ivan Toney last summer and replaced him with Johnson Clark-Harris, who scored 33 goals in all competitions, which is some going.
It's a massive achievement again for Darren Ferguson. Don't forget how much pressure was put on this season from a Peter perspective. The vengeance tours they were calling it as soon as last season were kind of put to bed. So the pressure on him to do it, and he's delivered over the course of the season.
How do you see it going then?
Oh, it's so difficult to predict. How can you not go for 3-1 Rovers, James Coppinger hat-trick?
Dan?
I've got to echo it, mate. 3-1 Cops hat-trick.
Liam, Dan, thank you for your company today and throughout the season as well. Thank you at home for watching throughout the campaign. Head over to I Follow Rovers now as Rovers take on Peterborough United from midday.